Welcome to our Morning Throners podcast. I'm Nelson.
I'm Jeff.
I'm Glow.
I'm Kyle. We're the fucking Morning Throners.
And welcome back to another episode of your favorite Game of Thrones podcast. We're the Morning Throners. We're talking Tyrion 8. We want to wish everybody a happy holidays and hope 2021 is bringing you everything 2020 did not.
Woo!
So here we are, Tyrion 8, right before the Battle of what, Nelson? What's the name?
People just call it the Battle of the Green Fork.
Battle of the Green Fork. First one that ever
Battle on
happened
the
there.
Green Fork.
Battle by the Green Fork.
This is my best guess of where this battle is happening.
It's pretty far north then, yeah.
I think it's further north than you think, just based off some of the stuff they were saying in the last chapter. Until this read-through, I definitely thought it was way closer south, almost closer to like where the Blue Fork forks off. Like
So
almost near the branch.
He's already advanced further than I thought he was going to. I mean, we had that discussion, I guess, before, and I'm sure you're planning to bring it up, but I thought he was going to kind of hang around Harrenhal, or not Harrenhal, but the Crossroads.
Yeah, and the reason I'm thinking this, and anybody can correct me if I'm wrong, viewers, you guys, is in the last chapter, the last cat chapter where she's at the twins, Sir Adam's outriders were the ones that like they encountered. And they were saying not far from the twins. And Sir Adam is the one who commands the right flank in this battle. So, like, sure, maybe he was a decent ways ahead of the army, but, like, how far? Really? It's not like he rode up to the twins and then the whole way back down.
Nelson, did they say like 10,000 men is what they thought? Or
Who said about who?
did they say how many Stark men they thought they had?
They didn't really say how many they thought there was going to be pre this battle,
Here's the other thing.
I forget, how many Starkmen are there?
They thought they thought it was going to be Robb Stark's whole army, which is 18 to 1,000.
And Tywin was just like, let's just go get them and wipe them out.
Tywin has, we think, a little bit over 20. I don't know if we know what the numbers Jaime has, but Jaime has a large enough force to siege River Run.
Yeah, honest question. So how come their army is twice the size of the North? Is it just population based, like because the North is less populated that there's...
Yeah, the North is barren.
Okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
I'm just going to say that there's probably close to, like, just Lannisport, right? Or Castle Rock has a fuck ton more people than the fucking bogs that they were just at, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't really have an answer. Just probably, population's
No,
lower.
I mean, it's a logical answer. I just was wondering.
So where we come into this chapter is Tywin's war council is meeting on top of this hill. Sounds like a pretty dope tent with all of the...
I was going to say they're eating dinner, right?
Yeah, outside. Yeah. Outside.
It's like the one last war council meeting before the battle tomorrow.
They got a bunch of pigs, huh?
Yeah, they don't...
I think they
seem pretty relaxed about it, I guess.
And it sounds really good, right? They got the skin roasted perfectly, nice and crispy.
Tyrion's all late.
And he can't walk again. He's got stubby little legs that cramp up on him all the time.
He's all hungry.
It's amazing he can even walk throughout the day. And he just gets made fun of right away, Nelson, right?
Tywin makes fun of him for being late. He's like, maybe you shouldn't be in the battle. Maybe you should be the one in charge of picking up the dead bodies if you're going to be as late to battle as you are to dinner. Mm-hmm. And then they basically Tyrion does this jokes back and forth, you can save some peasants for me or something. Yeah. Then some of Tywin's liege lords start complaining about the mountain
Stone
clans.
Crows.
So Ulf, we heard in the last Tyrion chapter, Ulf, one of the mountain clan, went off to get there's not that many with Tyrion, right? There was maybe 20 to 30 with Tyrion tops, but Ulf goes off to get more and bring them, and we hear here he has 300. So that's what he goes into battle with here. Tyrion and these 300 mountain clans.
Half man.
So I say that because they describe way higher numbers of other ranks later, right? I think they say the right flank is 4,000 knights, heavy horsemen, all
cavalry type deal.
Tywin has 5,000 around him.
5,000 in the back, and we don't know how many other mounted is with Gregor Clegane, but Tyrion only has 300 clansmen. They say it's the mountain and his men, right, and Tyrion and his men, and Tyrion's only got 300. So compared to the other people in this army, this is a very small battalion. And I think we talked about that last time with Kyle because Tywin doesn't need these people at all. When he kind of tricked them into like fighting for them in order to earn, because he said you'd pay us with your own gold, and then Tywin's like, what, I heard you guys were fierce and would just fight anybody because you're like fighting, basically, and tricks them into doing it, and they're like, yeah, fuck yeah, we're gonna do it. Like Tywin doesn't need it. He's just being Tywin and trying
Why
to
not? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly, because he can.
Like,
yeah.
And if they die, they die.
Anybody,
right?
and that's the less steel that he has to give to them. It's a win-win. Exactly.
It's,
And what we learn of his plans is basically what he put them there for. Like, hey, you guys can die for us. Thank you.
Yeah, just awesome.
The best part about this is Shagga.
Just what? Yeah, about how they're talking about what Shagga's demands were. So this was who? Leo Lefford is the guy who's like in charge of all the weapons and stuff, like the armory. And they're talking about what weapon Shagga wanted.
Lord Lefford frowned. I saw that great hairy one today. The one who insisted that he must have 2 battle axes, the heavy black steel ones with twin crescent blades. Shagga likes to kill with either hand, Tyrion said, as a trencher of steaming pork was laid in front of him. He still had that wood axe of his strapped to his back. Shagga is of the opinion that 3 axes are even better than 2.
Shagga is the best.
and we'll get to that later, like in the like Tyrion's account of the battle. That's the thing, is like most of this chapter I've done like some prep to show. I have some maps that show like what the whole armies do. We're not gonna spend too much time on that though, because most of this chapter is like Tyrion's account of the actual battle, where like you're actually seeing like Shagga use his axes. It is pretty freaking sweet. And so the next thing is, I think it's who Sir Kevin is basically like asking Tyrion if he thinks that his clansmen are ready. If they're like ferocious enough for battle, and Tyrion says ferocious. Tyrion realized he's echoing his uncle like a trained bird. His father watched, judging him, weighing every word. Let me tell you how ferocious they are. Last night, a moon brother stabbed a stone crow over a sausage. So today, we made camp. 3 stone crows seized the man and opened his throat for him. Perhaps they were hoping to get the sausage back. I couldn't say. Bronn managed to keep Shagga from chopping off the dead man's cock, which was fortunate, but even so, Ulf's demanding blood money, which Chon and Shagga refused to pay. And then basically they blame it all on Tyrion and say, like, this is all your fault. Which,
well, yeah, it's a commander's responsible for his men, but he's
That's
not really
crazy. He met these guys like 10 days ago.
I mean, it's Tywin's using like a true statement in like a situation that doesn't really like fit it. Like Tyrion's had control of these people for how long? Like maybe a month.
He
There's
never
no
had
way.
control. This is like Bane talking to that fucking mob guy. Like,
That's the other thing.
You think this gives you power over me? Like Shagga would like rip his leg off if he wanted to.
Exactly. Tywin has named Tyrion their commander, but as far as like any of the clansmen are concerned, he's really nothing. Yeah, Shagga is the commander for the Moon Brothers.
No, I think they'd follow him, but yeah, I don't think they would.
He's
listen
the name
to him
they
about
chant as they ride into battle.
Well, that's after he gives a cool speech, though. That's after he gives a cool speech.
Yeah. So right before that, Kevin tells Tyrion that he's going to be in the Vanguard, and like Tyrion's just like, oh yeah, fuck.
There's one more jab there about Jaime though too. Like, Jaime would be able to make him follow. You know what I mean? Or maybe that's just his thought process. But
yeah, Tyrion might ask. I think it's more Tyrion comparing himself to Jaime a lot in this chapter, right? Like, there's the one that sticks out is before battle. He's like, I wonder if Jaime ever like contemplates death before battle. But I think there's like 2 or 3 times where he thinks like, oh, I wonder if Jaime ever does this. Like, I think you're right, Jeff. If like Jaime can't control his men or like stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's because I'm not big enough to impose fear on them. I think that's what he says, but
yeah, no, that's what he says. But then he, like you guys said, he eats one piece of pork and then gets pissed off and walks away.
He gets pissed because he's told that Gregor Clegane's leading the Vanguard and not
exactly
him.
To rub his face into even more. He's like, they're like if you're too pussy to be in charge of the Vanguard, we'll put you like covering the baggage train. Which like if I'm Tyrion, like kinda, I'd be like, fuck yeah. Right, because that's the people who are basically guaranteed to not have any fighting, right?
Yeah, I probably.
He's in a family that respects the fighter, though, is what I'm saying. Like,
I got that, but he has a pretty decent out in that he's a little person, you know?
He's never fought anybody in his life. I don't even know if they trained him.
He had to have been trained. He has fought other people. He fought in that other chapter with Catelyn. He had to fight them out.
Yeah.
But
I'm saying,
but he wasn't.
true.
I don't know if he was trained to do that.
He fucked some people up.
No,
there.
yeah, he was like he's.
That's
I think he's like top 5 on the frag count after this. Like,
what do you get, 3?
I think he had like 2 or 3 in the last one, and he had 2 or 3 in this one. Yeah, so I think
Knight.
Sirio is like the only person above him.
No, I think he had.
He got a 19 yield. He got a 19 yield.
He got 2 and a yield.
He got 2 and a yield. I didn't count the yield. Yeah.
Are we counting horses as kills? Because that one horse fucking.
No, because we said we weren't counting.
Breastplated another one.
No. It only counts as a kill if what you killed is a person or is on the list. So like wolves are on the list. So if a wolf kills somebody, he gets a kill, and if a wolf gets killed, it gets a kill.
Yeah, but a horse
like Ned got a kill for Lady.
Killed another person.
Yeah, but I don't have that random horse.
We're not gonna count that.
I don't have that random horse on, so I don't
count. And like he can't be counting that. Okay.
Nelson has enough struggle just staying on task as it is. So Tyrion gets pissed off at dinner because now he's not leading the van. He's actually serving under the mountain. And so he just bails and he starts walking through all of the camps and the cook fires. He said he's just hungry as shit too because he just left probably the biggest pig roast known to Westeros.
Well, and you know how serious he takes his food too, you know.
Oh yeah.
Like that's a big deal for him to just leave.
He was talking about his food all day.
Well, he always is. I mean, that's always his thing.
Tyrion?
Yeah.
I haven't noticed that.
Are you kidding? Dude loves to eat.
Yeah, no, I think Kyle's right. Like he'll be like, "Oh, get me a nice like trout with the salt and the onions and
bacon burned black in the first
day." Talking about food.
A lot of people. George, I think George just likes
wine,
food.
like wine and dinner in a room, right?
Yeah, that's true. I never realized that. Yeah. So he eats what, one bite, but he doesn't even eat that. Right? He spits it out and then walks away.
Does he spit it out?
He does spit it out.
That's dope.
Gets back, and the one quote when he's walking that I thought was peculiar. He says like, although he was surrounded by 20,000 men, he had never felt so alone. And then like the next paragraph, like Chon and all the mountain clans people are actually like pretty like not
Chon.
like excited to see him, but like they're like happy when he walks up. They're like, hey, like come meet with us or whatever.
Yeah.
But it sounds
we have an ox.
They have like a giant ox that's like nowhere near ready. It's like on a spit, but it's still basically just like they maybe killed it like 20 minutes ago is what Tyrion like, makes it sound like.
Maybe it'll be ready by the time battles.
Before the battle, yeah. So, do they say anything important there?
Anyway, though. Like, these dudes don't care.
100%. Yeah, they'll eat it raw. They like
and it was on a tree. They had it spinning on a fucking tree.
Like a baby tree. But yeah, on a tree.
It's like it looked like it was on a small tree. Actually, it probably is a tree.
So Tyrion's tent is in between like all 4 of the clan's tents. They like kind of to stay away from each other. So each side. Let's say, Kyle, can you name all the clans?
Moon
what?
Clan.
Moon, no. Brothers.
Moon Brothers. It's one.
What are the other 3?
The Moonanites. The Stone Crows.
Stone Crows, there you go.
The Moonanites.
You know, Aqua Teen fan? I don't know, man. I don't know the rest of them.
What about the person who wears ears around her neck?
I don't
Tell
know.
of the black ears.
What?
Tell of the black ears. What about the guy who like burned his own?
I don't remember.
Manhood off.
The Burn Men.
Burn Men.
Okay.
And then the 4th?
You said of Black Ears.
Moon Brothers, Stone Crows.
I thought you said there was
Black
4.
Ears.
Black Ears.
That was 4.
Moon Brothers, Stone Crows, Burn Men.
Black Ears.
Oh, I thought the Black Ears and the Burn Men were the same thing.
Nah.
I thought they burned their ears.
That's a reasonable assumption, but no, you're wrong.
What did they normally chop off, a finger or something, right?
They burned something, and he burned like an eyeball.
They burn their nipples?
Like
don't they burn their nipples?
I knew they said something. I just didn't remember what it was.
Yeah.
I thought it was
Yeah, Timmy went all out.
So he gets back, and
Braun's
in
got
his
a
tent,
gift for him.
He finds Braun, his squire, right?
Podrick, who is the nephew of Sir Ilan Payne.
Correct. Talks just as much.
Tyrion found Braun sharing a skin of wine with the new servants. Lord Tywin had sent him a groom and a body servant to see his needs, and even insisted he take a squire. They were seated around the embers of a small cook fire, girls with them, slim, dark-haired, no more than 18 by the look of her. His squire was Podrick Payne.
Is a groom just someone that cleans the horse for you or something?
I guess.
Maybe gets his shit together too.
Yeah, a groom and body servant.
Before we move on, Kyle, what does resplendent mean?
Like beautiful and like it's like splendid. But,
okay,
right? But it's right?
Is that right?
I was asking you. I don't know. I didn't. I was gonna text you guys and ask you, but I didn't. I was like, oh, I could just look it up, and then I didn't do either.
Where does it say that, Glow?
It's a Game of Thrones word.
Attractive and impressive through richly colorful or sumptuous.
It's talking about Tywin Lannister when he's all garbed up for the battle.
Yeah, so it's like
that is a Game of Thrones word then.
Like just like over the top, like flashy might be a good.
Yeah.
Like
gotcha. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
The next thing I have in my notes is he just introduces himself to Shay. And he says, I'm Tyrion, House Lannister. Men call me the Imp. And she says, my mother named me Shay. Men call me often. Basically like, yo, you know what I am.
She has a couple good quips in this chapter. Yeah. All right, let's get into the tent, and then they start talking, and she's
he had told Bronn what before he went to dinner. He said, "Go get me a whore."
Prettiest. Did he say prettiest girl?
Give me a decent looking lass.
It's like hopefully younger the better. Hopefully clean. If she isn't clean, cleaner. Right, like something like that.
Yeah, if she hasn't bathed in the last month, give her a bath. Yeah,
yeah, something like that. So she takes him in, and how's their interaction go?
She's cool with it. She's like really like.
She's good at her job.
She's on board. Yeah,
she knows what to do. I mean, and he wants to learn more about her. Basically, it sounds like, and he's like, "Well, you're gonna basically be my servant / sex slave."
So Tyrion says she basically wants to like get naked right away.
What a joke by Tyrion to ask if she's a maiden.
Yeah.
Like, what a waste of a question. If that was 21 questions and you asked that, you better go fucking kill yourself.
Yeah,
like, that was stupid.
Heard, like, the first thing she said to you was, men call me often. So, like, obviously. Like,
yeah, I don't know why. I thought Tyrion was smart. What's he saying? What's he doing?
But, like, this little back and forth they have, right, where Jeff's talking is pretty good.
Shall I take my gown off, my lord?
She asked.
In good time. Are you a maiden, Shay?
If it please you, my lord.
She said demurely.
What would please me would be the truth of you, girl.
Aye, but that will cost you double.
Tyrion decided they would get along splendidly.
I'm a Lannister. Gold I have in plenty, and you'll find me generous. But I want more from you than what you've got between your legs, though I want that too. You'll share my tent, pour my wine, laugh at my jests, rub the aches from my legs after each day's ride. And whether I keep you a day or a year, for so long as we're together, you will take no other man into your bed.
Fair enough.
That's where I had it. I feel like that's just like a good, like, the first thing, again, like, Shay is exactly what you think she is. He says, are you maiden? And her answer is, even though it's obvious that she's not, is if it pleases you, right? Like, if you want me
I'll be whatever you want me to be right now, baby.
I'll tell you I am if you want me to.
She says that a couple times to him,
just
too.
Pure
like,
prostitute lingo.
You, like, whatever.
If it please, my lord.
But Tyrion makes it clear that he's not, I assume, he doesn't really want what most men would want out of a whore, probably, right? He wants a little bit more than that. Maybe I'm wrong. I assume most people don't do this, but I don't know.
He wants false affection from her.
Extended.
Well, I mean, if you remember, he almost married one.
Exactly, which is like, it feels like Tyrion would know better to stay away from something like that.
I think he's trying to recreate that.
He's trying to find another whore to marry.
A little bit.
Because he was traumatized as a child.
It's his thing now. Yeah, he's just into that. So,
I mean, it makes sense, right? Like, without like psychoanalyzing him, he's probably just like thinks that like nobody would like him unless you pay them. So like, if I can pay this person to know me long enough, maybe they'll like me after they know me, type of deal.
I think part of this is
sense.
like,
I mean, he's been with so many whores, right? Every place he's gone, he's looked for a whore. So he's just buying every little bit of affection. It's not like he's banging girls that want to bang him.
Yeah.
And I think some of this is like he knows they're going to be on the road for a while here and in the middle of all this shit. So he just wants something to come back to that's.
I mean, also he just like
normal and like
something stable,
that kind of thing, and like be around, be my friend to some degree. Like,
well, he says something later along the lines of like, tomorrow might be my last day, or like I might die soon, and I'd rather die thinking of Shay than die thinking of
Tywin, Catelyn, or Lysa.
Yeah, exactly. I'd rather die, no matter who it is. I'd rather die thinking of some chick I just fucked than of like the person that's gonna be the cause of my death tomorrow.
So, that's true. It's something back home to fight for, kind of.
I guess, but I don't even know if that's it. I think that just like I think it's more. That comment seems more of just like I want a distraction right now type of thing, which doesn't seem like he would need a long-term thing, which I think is not contrary, but like I guess it doesn't really go along with what we were talking about. It doesn't support what we were saying, but I agree that like he obviously like is kind of following similar patterns. So the next thing, right? They bang,
and she was faking it.
She was faking it,
or he suspects her to be faking it.
What?
But he said
when he entered her, she welcomed him with whispered endearments and small shuddering gasps of pleasure. Tyrion suspected her delight was feigned, but she did it so well that it did not matter.
That's true. Oh yeah, and then that's where he says it. He'd rather die thinking of her than his father, Lysa, or Cat Tully. So they lay. Then he starts whistling a song, and then he tells Shay,
which is like it's like I think she's asleep now. I can whistle. Is a little weird, right? Like that was a weird.
Softly, quietly, he began to whistle. He's about to go to war.
Sounds like
he's allowed to do it
after he just finished, and she's laying on his chest. He started whistling.
Yeah, when they lay together, he thinks of a song and starts whistling.
Okay.
I wonder what song it was.
We don't know any songs yet. We start to learn some songs later towards book 3. So he tells her to go to sleep, and maybe Kyle's right. Maybe she wakes up out of sleep and he tells her to get back to sleep. And when she does, he goes out to take a piss. And Bronn is chilling there, not sleeping, sharpening his sword. Which is kind of weird, right? Tyrion even says like Bronn doesn't sleep as much as most people.
Sleep's a learned habit. You don't need it.
I don't think that's true.
So what my old boss used to say that when we would work 12-hour days.
I've heard that quote and I like it, but the thing is, if I could have any superpower, it would be that I don't need sleep. Just think about how much more productive you do.
Yeah, I mean, you just wouldn't have to waste 8 to 10 hours of a day.
And like those 8 to 10 hours are like, I mean, it's more realistically 6 to 8 hours. But those 6 to 8 hours, nobody else is awake, right? So you get even more done than you normally would.
Or just play more video games.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Whatever. You might waste more time. Jerk off 5 times more. Whatever. Doesn't matter.
So he talks to Bronn like, yo, where did you get this, bitch? And he's like, I took him off some other dude. And he was kind of pissed about it. And Tyrion's like, great, now you made me an enemy, bro? Like, come on.
I mean, to be fair, he's probably taking this girl. If it's any good girl, he's probably going to be taking it from somebody.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so,
he had to know that.
Unless he really wanted to get the dirty one.
Tyrion's, I think one of his first thoughts after he hears that is like, well, my immediate concern is this guy going to be near me tomorrow when like we have swords and like our battle lust is up in Bronn? I think Bronn just says like, don't worry, I'll defend you. And Tyrion's like, okay, just know that like you'll be rewarded. I think basically says like you'll be rewarded if make sure you defend me, you'll be rewarded. Like
you can name your reward. Yeah.
Don't fucking.
Well, the best part though is like Bronn's like, well, if you don't want her, I'll take her back and get you a toothless one. Like all the pretty ones were taken, man. Like this was the only option. This was.
And then this is where Tyrion breaks the news to Bronn that they'll be in the vanguard with the Mountain, and Bronn says something along the lines of like, he just says that but they're in the vanguard. He's like, oh, that's hilarious. A small man with a big shield will drive the archers crazy or something like that. And then tomorrow in the morning when he sees Gregor, he's like, stay behind him. And Tyrion, we'll get to it, but I think Tyrion almost like thinks it's like an insult towards him. Until Bronn says, no, he's just going to, like, literally everyone's going to shoot at him because he's a huge target. And Tyrion's like, oh, hold on, that's a good point. Okay, yeah, maybe I will stay behind them.
Which is kind of stupid. I don't know why you would put like one of your best. I get the honor of it, and it's definitely like he's
In the
like
Vanguard?
he's
Yeah.
like a captain or a general. Like if it's, I don't know, like hey, look at me, I'm the biggest guy, and I'm gonna lead this whole deal. Like
It's also like
that shit's crazy.
it's also
What's
like
the Vanguard? The front?
again, I
yeah.
didn't know that, but it's like the one that like is in the front. It seems
It's
like
literally
in the
like-
front,
Takes, like,
the
the
most
The
you're
first
front
thing that you
lines.
see.
Yeah, exactly. You're the front lines. And in like I don't think this is spoiler. Everyone's always arguing in any battle we hear. People are always like, "Give me the honor of leading the Vanguard," and I'm like, "What are you fucking?" And then there's always an argument about it, and I'm like, "Who would argue?" Like,
Yeah, like
is that happening in
like I
real
said
life?
before, this is the time when like war honor was like the
Better than
biggest
living.
honor you could get.
Yeah.
But even in real life, did people do that? Or I thought that you put like the shit like that you're like in the front lines was like I don't know the people
Operation
that you
Human Shield.
yeah
You put-
exactly like I don't know how to say
South
it like
Park
the people
movie?
that you don't give a fuck. I
Oh
don't know.
my god, dude, that's
They put all the-
exactly what I was just
they put all the
thinking.
black guys
Kyle.
up front. They call it Operation Human Shield.
That's right.
I haven't seen the South Park, but like that's exactly what I thought. Like the people
It's
you don't
awful,
like.
but yeah.
I don't know what that is, but like yeah,
I
the
don't
people
watch
that are like
South
the
Park
most
either.
almost like the most expendable, which is fucked up to say about anybody, but like, but then you have like the lords arguing over the right for it. It just doesn't seem. I don't understand why. Did that
Because if
happen?
you
in real-
survive the battle after leading the Vanguard,
Oh,
that
yeah,
means you're a fucking badass.
legend. Yeah,
sure,
you're a legend.
and I'm sure like
But,
Kyle
like, did
said.
that happen in real world? I mean,
At some point, I'm assuming it did, right? The best warriors wanted to be up front, and if you died in battle, that was an honorable death.
Yeah, for sure. I agree.
But I mean, if you just know that that's like a top guy for you, like you can't risk that. Like I don't.
yeah. I mean,
So
also we don't know Tywin's plan yet, but we'll get there. We'll get there at the end.
I mean, so the other side of that is I don't think they thought this was going to be very hard either.
That's what she said.
shut up, Nelson.
Like they would just cut through the Starks like a hot knife through butter.
I don't think they were that worried about this.
Yeah, I don't think they were either.
I didn't get that. Maybe with the trumpeting sounded a little frightened when. Well, that was kind of not again according to plan anyway. So.
When they snuck up on them in the middle of the night.
A little sneaky.
All right, now let's get us back on track. So he's talking with Bron. Do they end their combo?
Yeah, so they end their convo, and he heads back into the tent and starts talking back to with Shay.
She starts stroking him again.
Yeah, and he asks her about the man that Bronn took her from.
She
he's
tells
like,
him he's a small
worry,
man.
Don't worry about him, bro.
He's a
Yo,
small man.
What am I,
That's
a
it.
giant? And she's like,
Yeah.
yes, and then mounts him.
My giant of Lannister.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much.
And then next scene, he gets woken up by trumpets, and Shay's shaking him like, yo, dude, wake the fuck up, bro. I'm scared. And he starts waking up, getting everything ready. He goes and wakes up Pod, says, yo, get my armor. He gets a groom to go get his horsey. Shay starts getting all the leather and his garb ready. Gets all
Wait, let's
dressed up.
talk about his armor. He's got a bunch of
Mismatched bullshit.
yeah, his fancy matching ones back at Castle Rock. So he looks like a fucking nitwit with a bucket on his head and a spear on the top.
I wonder what Tyrion can't look like. No offense to any little person out there, but like how fearsome could a little person look even if they were all dappled up in like some Tywin grade armor? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, he looks even more like a jabroni though.
Yeah, for sure.
So I read these books, right? And I have a tangent, sorry, but they're like on D&D, right? And there's like this clan of dwarves, I forget what they're called now, but they fought by like wearing spiky ass armor and then throwing themselves into other like things. I
Really?
forget. Yeah. And like the one dude wears a big giant spiked helmet and like he like dives into people all the time. and stuff like
Whatever book you read was after this was first. They
So
copied George R. R. Martin.
It was the Legend of Drizzt. One
Yeah,
of
that
those.
was-
I don't
yeah.
know which one it was, but
That came out like 3 years ago. I'm pretty sure.
yeah, it's brand new. That's actually a series that's as large as this one. You can see the white books over here that are fat as shit. That's those. But yeah, so like I mean, it it seemed kind of fearsome to me, but I also had that other reference, I guess, to pull from. Like,
So did you think something like this would happen as soon as they're describing this helmet with the big spike
I mean,
on it?
kind of. It like I said, it fit into that.
That's pretty
Like the
sweet.
Berserkers, or I forget what they're called, something like that, where they used to like give themselves shots of something that made them not feel pain, and then they would just like dive into fights.
But those are different types of dwarves than.
I know.
These
They
type
were
of
the
dwarves.
dwarven race. I wasn't saying that, but I mean their size was similar, and they wear the same. They're
Comparable.
wearing the same armor, kind of. But I mean, he does look a little goofier, I'm sure. Does he got like carpet taped around him as like instead of like a chest plate and shit? Like,
And so he waits the trumpets. He waits the trumpets, but then the Northmen have war horns. Like later, right before the battle starts, there's like trumpets, war horns, or something like that, right? It just kind of shows again. There's like I think it's a compare contrast versus north south. Just like they're two different ways of life.
well, I think
Right.
I think he was also pointing out that like the Stark's horn sounded
Like ominous, and the trumpets
frantic and like like it was getting scary on their like it was kind of the opposite of what I was saying before, where they weren't afraid of this. It sounded like they were like now kind of like, oh fuck.
Like they kind of caught us with like in the end they ended up not really catching them with their pants down, but like on the offset when you like wake up to that you're like Tyrion
went
especially
worse.
is just,
Yeah.
this is Tyrion's first battle too, like he's never like been here before, so of course he's like, oh fuck. So Bronn rides up to him and basically tells him what's going on. Starks marched through the night. Because they knew the armies know where each other are, but they just marched through the night and got here. And he tells Bronn like, okay, I got to get myself under control. You go ready everybody else, like all the fucking 300 clansmen. And it's great. Again, I think it's like, I never noticed it until this read through, but like, and I wonder if it happens throughout the rest of the book, but is there something weird with Bronn about how he doesn't sleep? He's already armored and horsed when Tyrion wakes up. He was awake, and didn't Tyrion sleep?
He
Tyrion,
slept at one point. I feel like we remember.
Well, he was
Didn't
sharpening
Bronn
his
sleep
sword.
at the tree when
Yeah,
they
but
first?
Tyrion goes in with Shay, fucks Shay, and then doesn't Tyrion sleep a little bit and then wake up
yeah,
and then
yeah.
go piss? And
Yeah,
Bronn's still awake, probably
No,
for the
Tyrion
first
doesn't
time.
sleep. He waits until Shay falls asleep.
Oh yeah,
Then
you're right.
go-
Because he
then
starts
goes to
whistling
rinse
right
and
after.
pins.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe Bronn didn't sleep that much less than Tyrion. But even I thought Tyrion even says something like Bronn didn't sleep like other men, or something. He says something like that. in
He
the
does
show.
say
Yeah,
that,
but what does
yeah.
that mean? It could be like 4 hours versus.
I don't know. I thought
That
it was
age
Which is
Yeah,
pretty
but-
significant.
It's
Sure,
still-
no,
yeah.
for sure. But there's people like that. There's people that
Like,
can.
I don't know. I
Well,
think there's people that say they're like that, but they're not really like that.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know Bronn's sleep schedule. We're getting it from
I'm just saying, I
the
think it's
opinion of Tyrion.
Without dragging
I
on,
can
'cause we're already
say
going too
I can
long.
say you
Yeah.
you don't sleep for like 4 days and then you sleep for 3 days straight. I mean, that's not true, but it's just what I'm saying,
I mean, that's an exaggeration of the truth, but
and that's what I'm saying.
So
Tyrion's
it's
saying
not
about
true.
Bronn.
it's not that far off, though.
This is all speculation.
So they talk about the point on the helmet. He tells Shay, if I die, weep for me.
She's like, how would you know? You'll be dead.
How would you know? He's like, I know. So they get him ready. They get him on his horse. Does Pod go into battle with them? Podrick, his squire, or does he just like help him get ready? I
It
don't think they mention him at all in the battle,
doesn't
do they?
say. Yeah, it
yeah,
doesn't
I
bring
wouldn't
him up
think
at
he
all.
would, but I mean, he might. But they
I mean,
didn't mention him.
don't a lot of squires? I mean, we don't know how old. Do we know how old Podrick is?
I don't think he gives us an age.
I'll click on it. If we have one, I'll know it. No, we don't.
So after one of the things I know from before this is that he's Pod the Rod, but I have no idea why.
I'll tell you that's
assume
really
it's a thing.
funny, but it's 100%. That's 100% a show only thing. Pod does
Okay.
not have a rod by any means in the book, at least not yet.
That's what I'm saying. Like this kind of threw it on its head. My expectations of Pod. He's just very timid and
There's a scene in the show where he impresses a bunch of a horse, and it's not like it's not really a plot
big,
point at
yeah.
all. Yeah, it's like one of the things that people call part of sex position, where they like have sex acts kind of going on in the background while they're telling a boring part of the plot to make the boring part of the plot they're telling less boring. But it doesn't happen in the book at all.
And Tyrion's like, wait, he is a big dick?
Yeah, they make a joke out of it in the show. I mean, it's fucking funny, but not in the books.
The western sky was a deep purple, speckled with stars.
So this is what? He's mounting up, right?
Yeah, so that's after he's like Podrick got him mounted on the horse. He needed help on the horse, and he's about to head over to get in battle position, and that's when he notices the sky's deep purple with speckled with stars. So there we go, guys.
I have a note in my in my notes highlighted that Kyle was right about the horses. We talked in the last Tyrion chapter about when Tywin says, "What brought you here?" Shagga says, "Horses." And I argued that Shagga's saying, "I came here to get horses from you." And you argued that Shagga took it like Brax from Guardians of the Galaxy. Literally.
Horses.
And he's like, "I came here on a horse." And here they say that the clansmen are about to ride in a battle still on their shitty horses. So obviously, and they already say they got what they came for, right? They got armor and arms and armor already.
I was going to mention that earlier,
horses.
too, when we were talking about him getting... He says, "Well, fuck, 3 axes is better than 2." Like, this is that's on his line of thinking there. Is like, well, fuck. And why wouldn't I want 3?
Horses brought me here.
Yeah. But Tyrion thinks to himself, he thinks something about their scrawny horses. And I was like, damn, Kyle was right. They got what they said they were going to get, and horses must have not been part of the deal. So that's what he meant when he said horses.
Which makes him funnier.
Pays for horses. So, yeah, I mean, he's starting to get with all the clansmen, as you said, on the scrawny horses. And then Tywin's army basically all gets into position. We have Uncle Kevin, sorry, I keep saying Caven, in the center there, right on the King's Road, right above the King's Road. We have Tyrion's clansmen and Sir Gregor's team on the left side by the riverbank. And then on the right side, I have no idea, with Tywin on the hill with his 5 grand of people around him.
All right, so I'm gonna point out why I made this. So this is what Glow just explained, and I'm gonna explain why I think it's this. Tyrion on the left, we don't know how many people there are with him. We know 300 clansmen. So quick, I guess I'll explain. Anything that's like a sigil. So you see the Lannister sigil. That's where Sir Kevin.
No. Where's the Lannister sigil?
In the reserves on the back right on the hill.
So that gold dragon facing left, it looks like?
It's a lion facing right.
But close.
Oh, I see the lion now, yeah. Mine was smaller. Okay, anyway.
Lannister. So this is Tywin. This is Kevin. Tyrion and Mountain clans. So again, he only has 300. So, and Tywin has 500 knights around him alone. Plus 5,000. This is the 5,000. This is the 500. Kevin, I'm sure, has at least 200 or 300 knights around him. Sir Adam Marbrand is somewhere over here in command of this. And then you have I'm sure you have Stark knights. They don't really name anybody who the knights are, but you have High Lords somewhere in these fights. And I'm assuming Roose Bolton is somewhere in the back. Right? They don't really describe the Lannisters or the Stark setup at all. I'm just guessing pikemen somewhere in the front, arrows, and everybody else in the back. And then this is the exact setup Glow describes. You have 3 lines of archers on each side, pikemen in the front, men at arms, your heavy cavalry on the right, and then Tywin's reserves is actually, Tyrion says early in the chapter that it's up on the hill. Tyrion says it's on the hill where they took their dinner. And earlier in the chapter he says the hill is up on the other side of the road on a hill near a big tree. Right? So this is kind of the initial setup. And then the way the battle goes, we'll talk about what happens with Tyrion, but the way the battle goes is basically they charge. The vanguard charges, and they crash. Gregor and his men get through. So this is the Clegane sigil. Gregor, this symbol represents 300 people or so. Gregor gets through. We don't know how many other people get through. Shagga gets through, whatever. There's a fight here. They conflict. Basically, they're kind of, the Stark men are sending maybe some reinforcements, but are actually kind of breaking apart and losing. So they decide to send in the middle reinforcements, like Sir Kevin's men, basically the pikemen, and they say that they're pushing them up against the hill, the muddy banks of the hill. So I'm assuming it's near the river, the hill they're pushing them up. So they're kind of getting pinned back here. they don't really say anything what happens on the right, so I'm not sure if Sir Adam Marbrand actually kills anybody, or they all kind of escape in the retreat, or if it's a combination of both. So I kind of try to symbolize that by they kind of meet and retreat at the same time. Tywin comes over here, and Tyrion says that at the end of the battle, he sees Tywin ride through with like all his knights, right, and kill all the people who are like any stragglers
Dying. Yeah.
Exactly. So kind of as the Starks are breaking, they kind of also start retreating. That's where you see Roose Bolton leaves off the top of the screen. You don't really know how many people live versus die versus retreat in the battle, but it ends up basically Tywin had gone from here to here up on the left side, and everyone else retreats or dies. And then this one is for basically what Tywin wants to happen. So if we want to talk about Tyrion before we get to that, Kyle, in order to keep the suspense, what's Tyrion's experience for this battle?
They fuck shit up. Like
it's pretty sweet.
Yeah, I mean, he watches some of his friends die, like his clan friends, you know, like for sure. Like I feel like a couple of like the main ones died.
Shagga ends up holding Khan's head. Right.
So at first I thought it was just his head, but it's just he's laying, his dead body is laying in his lap.
Before we get into it, did you guys talk about Tywin's Lannister? Tywin's armor?
Yeah, we said it was mismatched and a bucket on his head.
No,
and
Tywin, not Tyrion.
Jeff, read Tywin's paragraph about his armor. It's fucking sick. Well, it honestly sounds like it's not even it's clearly not practical to fight in.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the thing. He's never fighting.
Like
his cloak is so heavy that like a normal clasp can't handle. It's like it'd be like riding in a battle with a weighted blanket on your shoulders.
Well, he said it doesn't even move when he's riding.
Yeah, exactly, like a weighted blanket on your shoulders. Like what?
Tywin Lannister's battle armor put his son Jaime's gilded suit to shame. His great cloak was sewn from countless layers of cloth of gold, so heavy that it barely stirred even when he charged, so large that its drape covered most of the stallion's hindquarters when he took the saddle. No ordinary clasp would suffice for such a weight, so the great cloak was held in place by a matched pair of miniature lionesses, crouching on his shoulders, as if poised to spring. Their mate, a male with a magnificent mane, reclined atop Lord Tywin's great helm, one paw raking the air as he roared. All three lions were wrought in gold with ruby eyes. His armor was heavy, steel plate, enabled in a dark crimson, greaves and gauntlets inlaid with ornate gold scrollwork. His rondels were golden sunbursts. All his fastenings were gilded, and the red steel was burnished to such a high sheen that it shone like fire in the light of the rising sun.
This guy's gotta look awesome, dude.
So let me say this, though. Without seeing it, that helmet sounds stupid.
It does. It sounds like ridiculously heavy. Like too heavy.
Yeah, it sounds huge. Like it's just going to knock you off balance.
Well, yeah. I'd much rather have Tyrion's spike helmet than that one. Let me just throw it out there.
Yeah, me too. But I think they said in like the tournament that like somebody went into the like people that go into tournaments with like huge antlers. I mean, I guess antlers makes more sense on your head because it's something that should come out of your head, not like an actual whole lion body. But like I feel like they talk about stupid shit on helmets all the time. What would be cool if it looked like a lion?
Well, like the
helmet was
the
hound
in the show,
exactly.
Yeah,
exactly like that. Yeah, it's something like that. Like this sounds kind of stupid, but the shoulder lions do sound.
Yeah.
Dope.
I mean, everything else sounds awesome. The helmet sounds stupid.
The shoulder lions sound dope.
Yeah, I agree with that. The shoulder lions.
So before the charge, Tyrion thinks about the last time he saw Robb
sitting in his great chair with a naked steel, and the dire wolves coming out of the shadows, and he wonders if the dire wolves are going to be here. He's like, "Fuck, I hope they're." He says, "Like I hope." I don't know if he says, "Yeah, I hope they're not here," but he says like he has a chill to think if they
are.
It
made him uneasy.
Yeah,
something like that. Yeah,
that's what he says. I'm reading.
So Gregor,
something like that. Yeah,
Gregor, they charge.
Quit speculating, Kyle.
Jumps right over top / through. Somehow his horse doesn't die. Does his horse die?
Gregor's?
It does eventually, I think.
Yeah, it does die.
And he gets up. Shagga follows Gregor through, but Shagga fucking like axes somebody. So Shagga axes somebody on the way with one of his axes, and with the other one, he's doing some other shit while he's like remember, like Tyrion
carrying
says,
the
like,
guy with the axe, isn't he?
a dad body with his other axe. So the 2 axes did come in handy. So
Yeah,
Leo
I thought
Leffert
that
can go
exactly
fuck
when.
himself. Leo
I thought he was
Leffert
going to
can go fuck
drop the
himself.
one axe and pick
He
out
did
and
it
grab his
for his
other
third,
one.
for his third, which would also be awesome. But I think they made it like sound like the body falls off after a while. And he
It
like
does,
uses it or
but
something.
the 2 axes he was holding were better as well. Like they
And
were
he goes-
nicer axes.
And he smashed them together.
Yeah.
I love Shag. I just Shaw.
Fucking
Awesome.
badass, dude.
So
The whole point of this, though, they're trying
It's
to
a-
hold the flank. Like
Yeah, the whole time they got to hold a flank.
your maps made it look like they were more on the offensive than I thought. To be honest, I thought it was kind of a clash in the middle, and thought they were getting torn apart a little at parts of it. But
when we look at the maps of what Tywin wanted, I think you'll see it. Like you'll see that they don't look like they're on the offensive the other way. And again, the only reason that I made it look like that is because the map wasn't like tall enough to spread the armies out enough. So I kind of put the fight on the Stark side in
Okay.
this part because they're winning, and that's kind of what actually happens. Is the left flank pushes too far. Like it's not enough for them to overcommit. It's kind of a 2 for 1, right? I mean, we're not there yet. We'll talk about it when we're there. But
Can we talk quickly? Why is like they say the river, right? What was the importance of the river? Like,
it's a
why did
barrier.
yeah, no one
If
can
your
flank
flank
you on the
breaks,
left.
they?
Yeah.
Right. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And what's
So
there
hold
to the
river.
right? Just is there a mountain to the right, or is right open
No.
land?
Right to wide
So
open.
it's not like a
Yeah.
tunnel. Like, I guess. Okay, I get it. So they want to
It's
hold
just-
the river,
if-
so you can't get outflanked to the left, and
Yeah, if you
they
get
got
flanked-
their cavalry on the right,
Yeah.
so they got
And they got
that.
hills on the right, so it's kind of hard to.
That's what
go up and
Tyrion
around.
thinks. That's what Tyrion thinks, right?
Right.
But Tywin is hoping they just crumble, and then they can wrap around them and get behind them, and then the Starks, because they're basically surrounded on all fronts. Then because they can't, they're trapped between the Lannisters and the river, which was the point of Tywin saying stay near the river, because if Tyrion lost, he wanted them to die near the river so that that's where the Starks were, that he could like surround them. So I said we weren't going to get there. I kind of spoiled it. Tywin wanted them to overcommit, and Tyrion's group to like basically lose and get pushed back.
Thanks, Dalton.
Spoilers.
Ruined it.
Fucking Tyrion.
But getting back to what Tyrion's seeing, Tyrion says he's waving his 2-handed sword as most men would wave a dagger and stuff like that.
Yeah,
right?
that's in like that's when.
That's
yeah,
way
that's when they're
earlier,
getting
right?
prepped. Yeah.
So as they're riding, I think is it after Gregor goes over the thing? It might be right before Tyrion's again, like kind of what Kyle or one of you guys just said. Who said it? Push to the river. Tyrion's like yelling out to the clansmen, but he's like, the clansmen are already past me. Like it doesn't matter. That's when they see the Shagga kill people. Bronn's pretty much gone right away, right? Like there's just like no sight of Bronn this entire battle. We have no idea what he's doing.
Just immersed in killing people. Like honestly, if someone did have eyes on him, he's got to be the league of the frag count. We just
There's
don't.
no frag counts for him this chapter.
Which is just absurd. You know, he killed probably 15 people.
He's probably going off somewhere. I mean, based on what he did the first time.
He fights with the spearmen. Is who he fights with.
Tyrion.
Yep. A man at arms thrust at his chest and his axe lashed out, knocking the spear aside.
A man lunges a spear at Tyrion, but he blocks with his axe, rides over him. Not a confirmed kill. I didn't give him a kill for this gun. Should we?
No.
And
Because he
rode
says
right
like
over
he falls
Bronn.
out of Tyrion. He falls out of Tyrion's reach, right? And Tyrion,
Well, here's Bronn then. Bronn was surrounded by 3 foes, it says.
He got ran over by a horse. I think he's dead.
Oh, you know what? Maybe I did give Bronn 1 kill for this slice. Because
He
it
does
says
kill
Bronn
somebody.
cuts the head off a spear
Mm-hmm.
and slices a man's face. I think I gave him a kill for the sliced face.
Kill.
That
Confirm it.
that sounds like a deadly wound, right?
Maybe.
It better be.
I don't know that it's official.
Should I not have given it to him?
Give it to him.
Give it to him.
I gave one. Yeah, I gave it to him. Okay, I can take
I
it
mean,
back.
he obviously came out of this fight against 3 dudes, so I mean, I assume he killed probably at least one of them.
Yeah, we'll give him at least 1. Okay, that's fair. If anybody has a problem with it, you can write a comment about it.
Yeah, fuckers. So the next is a spear gets thrown at Tyrion. He luckily blocks it with his spear or a shield.
Yep.
And then Tyrion's like, "Oh, I'm gonna fuck this weaponless dude up," and he falls down. And Tyrion's like, "Oh, I can't reach. My arms are too short." So he goes on to the next dude.
Yeah, he keeps riding on. He axes somebody in the back, And again, they don't really say if he kills this person, but I give him the kill for it.
Axe to the back in this day and age, you're
he kind of runs
dead.
him down. Right, I'm giving him this kill.
Sweeping down cut.
You guys see it? You guys get that kill? Is that a kill?
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
kill.
give him the kill. I'm assuming unless you're mentioned as being alive, you're dead.
So he sees a dead burn man. He rides by that. A Northman tries to grab the reins of the dead Birdman that he rides by. So he chases that guy. And that guy's got a sword, and they start fighting. He was a tall guy, but he didn't have a helmet on, and he started yelling, "Dwarf die," something like that a lot. Right, and this is the guy that Tyrion actually kind of fights with one-on-one for a while. Tyrion's still mounted, circling this guy.
And he's crying, "Where's Bronn?" Is what he's thinking here.
Well, I don't know if he says it out loud, but yeah, he's thinking what the fuck? What am I paying Bronn? What the fuck am I paying this guy for? So Tyrion's shield eventually gets completely destroyed, I think, right? He says he shakes the last pieces off his arm or something like that.
Yeah.
Well, he gets fucked up in the shoulder and the elbow, and
this is before that. His
the wood
shield
seemed to
gets
explode
destroyed.
inward under the force of the blood. The shattered pieces fell away from his arm.
Yeah. So
yeah, it's gone.
Shit gone.
Then Tyrion gets hit in the face, and he gets lucky he's wearing a helmet and gets thrown off his horse. Oh, no, he's not thrown off the horse.
Well, when he gets hit in the face, it doesn't hurt him at all, though. It glances off his helmet. The guy smiles, but Tyrion doesn't seem to Tyrion doesn't talk about it being painful at all. He might ring his bell, but it's not
so hard his head rang.
He just says his head rang.
But his elbow later, he talks about for the rest of the chapter, right? This isn't it just glances. It has a helmet on. It has a helmet on. It hurts. Yeah, you got hit in the head with a metal object, but you're not bleeding from this or anything.
Yeah, he survived it. He might be a little concussed, but he's fine.
Yeah. And Tyrion kills the guy, right? He just basically somehow he axes him in the head.
Well, his horse bites him in the
cheek. Bites him in the cheek because he got in too close. Yeah. And then Tyrion axes him in the downward cut right on his head and tells him to die. And then this is when the night with the morning star comes to Tyrion. And I think he basically builds up, fucks up his elbow, immediately. Right away, right? Is it the first thing that happens when he rides up? The horses slam together and he gets, smashed in the elbow.
I thought he gets smashed in the elbow with the morning star.
That's what I'm talking about.
So after he gets hit in the elbow, Tyrion drops the axe and he's looking for a sword. Damn, dude, I'm fucked right now.
And he gets hit in the face with the morning star, and that's what knocks him off his horse.
And if he didn't have plot armor, he would have been dead. Let's throw that out there. He should have been dead. I'm pretty upset that he lived through this. Yeah,
it's a fucking helmet.
This night. He's like, "Do you yield?" And then Tyrion fucking bitches out on him.
He says what? He says yes, right?
No.
He says nothing.
He
stabs him.
Well, yeah, it's when he jumps through the horse's belly.
Yeah, but it's
what's the plot armor? The fact that he got hit in the head with a morning star and didn't die, or the fact that once he's on the ground he doesn't die?
This knight didn't kill him. He's like, "Do you yield?" And then he just attacked again.
What? You don't think they would make him yield?
I think he would
have killed him.
They probably were thinking hey, let's take him for hostage.
I think most people
they probably know who
lucky,
he is.
But yeah, the fact that he's a little person has to help him out. I mean, the only reason maybe not is he is wearing a helmet and is in Mitchmass armor. So would you really assume that he's a Lannister?
Yeah, he knew. He says, "Tyrion the imp," he boomed down. "You are mine. Do you yield, Lannister?"
Oh, then I think he definitely takes him hostage.
Yeah, absolutely. It becomes a huge
100%.
poker chip.
Yeah.
And that guy probably becomes a lord or some bullshit.
That guy gets a huge reward if he brings back I guess he could bring back Tyrion's head too. But I don't know. I feel like bringing back a captive is almost better than bringing back a dead body.
Yeah, agreed.
Now you have leverage.
Fair
I
enough.
don't know though. And that's what Tyrion ends up doing with his knight, right? Tyrion doesn't finish off does this random knight who we don't even get a name for this guy. I didn't have a name to put in the frag count for Tyrion's kill. It's a yield, but we don't even this unnamed knight, Tyrion doesn't kill him. He makes him yield. Just who knows? Maybe they ransom him for $20.
It's the same guy, right?
It's the same guy, but Tyrion doesn't kill him. You think Tyrion doesn't kill him just because he didn't kill Tyrion? It's kind of like a thing in PUBG, if a guy downs you and you don't finish him off right away, then you down his teammate, you're not gonna finish his teammate. You know what I mean? Like you thirst.
It's different in PUBG because there's no self-revive. You know that guy's going to die at some point if you just keep Overwatch. God only knows what could happen in Warfare if a guy gets down. He could pop up himself. He could get bought back. He could win his gulag.
I don't know. I could see plot armor.
That's real life.
Getting back to the chapter, I could see plot armor for the hit in the head with the Morningstar, but I think the yield thing is totally makes sense.
I think plot armor for the Morningstar too.
Morningstar
to the
I don't think so.
Morningstar to the face.
It didn't say you don't know if it was clear. It could graze it. It could
a sickening crunch, and he was falling.
Yeah, but it's a metal on metal. Like hopefully that's like the
metal
metal
on his elbow, didn't he?
Honestly, there's no
His
point to
elbow's
wearing
bleeding?
armor. There's no point to wearing armor as if every time you get hit you die. There's just no point to it. So
Well, yeah,
So the sword protected him, but a fucking heavy metal ball with spikes
That's the
on
point
it.
of that is to defeat the armor. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like, well, this is a bad example, but if I put a grape in a soda can, I can crush that soda can without damaging the grape, right? And that still sounds like a sickening crunch if you're the grape. Theoretically, that's what would happen to Tyrion's face. And I know it's a bad example because a soda can is way bigger than a grape, but the concept still holds true. The metal could crunch without actually contacting him or contacting him enough.
He's got a huge head.
He's probably got a huge helmet then, huh?
Glow, just think about the sounds it makes
It makes
when
match.
like
It
you
can
hit with a
finish that.
helmet. Like it made crazy noises and like you could I get it, it's different completely,
Glow
but
never made a hard tackle.
it's true.
I hate you guys.
Tyrion lurched to his feet, diving his head into the horse's belly. The animal gave a hideous scream and reared. It tried to twist away from the agony. A shower of blood and viscera poured down over Tyrion's face, and the horse fell like an avalanche.
And then the horse just so happened to fall on the knight in a way to kill him or to almost to
Happens all the
incapacitate him.
time.
It does happen a lot.
Yeah, I guess you're right. It happened to Ned.
Happened in Yellowstone, if you ever watched that.
It probably happened in
One of the viewers has.
another movie.
How do you know?
I'm guessing. Eventually one of the viewers will. The thing is,
One
by
in
20,
30 people have seen it. Is that what you're saying?
By
Is that the claim you're making?
by 100, think about how many views these podcasts will have. Somebody must have watched Yellowstone.
I did
Also-
find a couple of them in Cyberpunk. I found a couple shards with our podcast on it, guys. That's 2077. So
All right, so dude gets crushed, and then Tyrion's like, "Well, do you yield, brother?" And the guy's like, "Yeah, I yield."
Yeah, that's it. That's pretty much it, right? Braun
I think
rides
it's
up.
more like, yeah, I'm gonna yield.
Yeah.
Finally, I yield, my lord. Oh God.
So Braun rides up, right? And Tyrion's basically like, "Where the fuck were you this whole time when I was fighting these people that I didn't expect to actually have to fight?"
He's like, I had to fucking take down a knight, man.
And and Braun's like, "Yeah, it looks like you did all right. Like you held your own."
Small use you turned out to be.
Well, the helmet broke off. His spike is gone.
You lost your spike, dude.
Yeah. He's like, no, I know where it is.
But what he doesn't know is where his horse is. So that's what they find. This is when they find some of the clansmen. Many had died, including, you're right, whoever said it earlier, Ulf died.
I did.
And Khan. They found Shagga. Shagga had a bunch of arrows in him that he didn't even really realize were in
That's
him.
right. So Shagga's gone now. That's right.
No.
Yeah,
No.
he's slumped beneath the tree,
They
riddled with arrows.
Yeah,
But
but
he plucked
Oh, yeah,
someone
right. He
out
opened
later.
his eyes. Yeah, I'm sorry. It's
Tyrion's
been
like,
a couple
"Whoa, he's
weeks.
actually
Yeah.
alive."
Yeah, and he just plucks up later. Then, like, yeah, he talks about Chon, like, oh, Chon's dead. Or Khan. He's like, oh, Khan's dead. And then later he says, like, he plucks out the arrows, like, as if he noticed them for the first time. So, like, I don't know how damaged he is. It's like some of them didn't even make it the whole way through his armor either. Tyrion says.
So he's more badass
That's why you
than,
wear armor.
than... What the fuck is his name?
Oh,
Yeah.
Khal Drogo.
Yeah, Khal Drogo, yeah. He's crying about his one in the arm.
He didn't cry. He said it was nothing but the bite of a fly. And he smacks it. I don't know if he smacked it.
I think he was not feeling himself though. Everybody knew it. He was dying. His tit was missing too. So
No, it was a bite of a fly and a scar to sing of to his son. Sing of to my son too. Sing. I don't know. Sing two of my. Sing of. I don't know.
It's hard to sing to my son too.
I need more whiskey. Hold on.
I do too.
No,
actually,
you do.
All right, so after he cleans himself off, trumpets are blaring.
So, hold
Tyrion
on,
starts
one more
heading back
question.
towards Tywin. What?
One more question. Chella, daughter of Chick, rides up from the Black Years, and says she is.
I got four more
years.
years.
I'm not counting those on
kills.
the frag count.
2 kills.
You
They
can't.
were
No,
all
that's not how
screen.
this works. It's not
She
like we're
could have
just
cut
gonna
those
start
years
just-
off.
What do you mean?
Dead
That's
men.
like kill. That's like kill confirmed. She got the dog tags.
That's why I'm wondering. Yeah, but I'm not saying we give her half. You give her all or none. I'm not like we're not saying like, oh, this counts
Do you
as
think they're
half a
4
kill.
separate ears or two pairs of ears from
No,
2 people?
there's no way you take pairs of ears. There's no way, right?
I think she's just hoarding from dead people.
Have any of you guys seen the TV show
Stealing
Hannibal?
Timot's thunder.
You already
No.
know my answer to that.
No.
All right, never mind.
Is he a bunch of ears?
There's an ear scene. Go ahead. Yeah, so she got a bunch, and then son of Timot comes up, and he's looting bodies with all the burn men. So basically, they just like I don't know if they is Ulf. I think Ulf is the Moon Brother, so maybe they need a new Moon Brother leader. Stormcrows are Shaga Stonecrows are Shaga and Dolph. Shaga, son of Dolph and Khan's dead. Shaga's still good. Chella, Timid are good. So potentially one of the leaders died. I think it was Ulf was for the Moon Brothers. Yes, that's correct.
That's
So,
correct.
Who knows who's in charge of the Moon Brothers now? But the rest of them still got leaders. There were a lot of dead people though. But basically, he leaves Braun in charge of the guy who he had yield, and he goes to find Big Daddy.
Big Daddy Tywin.
all the other like lords and knights.
Sipping wine from a jeweled cup. What a bitch.
Just fucking chilling.
He is a little
Nothing
cunt.
happened here.
Tywin's a cunt. His father's eyes were on him, pale green, flecked with gold, so cool they gave Tyrion a chill.
Did that surprise you, Father?
He asked.
Did it upset your plans? We were supposed to be butchered, were we not?
Lord Tywin drained his cup, his face expressionless.
I put the least disciplined men on the left, yes. I anticipated that they would break. Robb Stark is a green boy, more like to be brave than wise. I'd hoped that if he saw our left collapse, he might plunge into the gap, eager for a rout. Once he was fully committed, Sir Kevin's pikes would wheel and take him on the flank, driving him into the river while I brought up the reserve.
And you thought it best to place me in the midst of this carnage, yet keep me ignorant of your plans?
A feigned rout is less convincing, and I am not inclined to trust my plans to a man who consorts with sellswords and savages.
A pity my savages ruined your dance.
Tyrion pulled off his steel gauntlet and let it fall to the ground, wincing at the pain that stabbed up his arm.
The Stark boy proved more cautious than I expected for one of his years.
Lord Tywin admitted.
But a victory is a victory. You appear to be wounded.
All right, that's good. That's right. So first off, it's interesting that I think again it says a lot about Tyrion that he's able to know what Tywin anticipated just from this encounter, right? Like, if you're Tyrion, do you know what Tywin's plan was after this?
Well,
And
when his
how did
dad
he
showed
know?
up and was just hanging out here anyway, I think he was like, motherfucker.
What do you
like,
mean?
This
His
guy
dad-
wanted to...
His dad's past him. He rides up north towards the Stark to meet his dad because his dad, on that map that I showed at the end, his dad rides past with 500
I mean, it just says
knights
he was seated by the river.
by the river, and he started on the hill way back behind to the right with the reserves.
I know, but I mean, he didn't have to be that far past him.
It doesn't have to be past him, but Tyrion did say his father rode with the reserves up.
I guess
along
what I'm
the river.
saying is like his dad was over here. There was no reason for him to be over here, and like this was obviously his plan. And he's sitting here fucking drinking out of this jewel ass cup, like being a little bitch by the river. Like,
I'm not saying he's not being a bitch by the river, but I don't know if Tywin being a bitch by the river indicates to Tyrion what his plan was. The only reason I bring it up is because I think that Tyrion didn't know what the battle layout was going to be until he was there, right? Like he didn't know where people were supposed to go. He knew he was supposed to be in the vanguard, but that was basically
because he bailed from the meeting. Do you think if he stayed, it would be different?
He might have known it a little bit more, but that's kind of what I'm saying. Like where Tyrion talks about how there's 4,000 men in the heavy cavalry on the right, and Tywin has 5,000, but he doesn't really say a number to how many he has. And even Bronn, right before they ride in to that battle, Bronn says something like, we're fucked here.
Yeah.
Yeah, he says we're like food for the carrion.
I feel like they had like 2,000
while
mounted
they were
men.
all mounted. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, like 1,000 to 2,000, because he says while they were all mounted, they weren't the knights that were on the right flank. They were like the men at arms and sellswords and like the less experienced
the farmers.
But so
and
here,
bullshit.
this goes back a couple pages. We talked about this, but like, why would you put your mountain with these guys too? Like, not even just in the front, but with the people you wanted to die.
Yeah, exactly. So I'll pull up real quick. I'll show you guys how I basically think what Tywin wanted.
Well, he said the most undisciplined, and Gregor kind of ran in there, guns ablaze, and then started flailing his sword around.
Yeah.
That's true. Basically, same thing, same setup. On the left, though, they start to fall apart, start to lose men. Mountain's gone. You lost some of your. Again, like each one of these is potentially like 1,000 men ish.
Wait, did they think the mountain was gonna die?
No, but the mountain is like charges. Like you're starting to lose some men, right? So I'm just indicating a loss of forces by indicating a loss of one of these, and the mountains one's gone, right? Starks overcommit to the left. They start to get wrapped in here as they continue to win. Right flank wheels, center wheels. Reserves kind of come up on the left, and they just kind of get pincer moved into this, potentially getting some. And this is kind of where maybe
some drowned men.
Without spoiling Kyle, like this is the last picture I have. Like so when you say like you thought it was plot armor that lordlings would be like spared, I literally like the last picture I had was Roose Bolton and potentially some Stark Northern lordlings not dying. Like I don't have them being eradicated. This is where I thought it would stop, and they would be like, okay, Roose Bolton, whoever they left with them. I don't remember if it was the Umbers or whatever, but whoever.
You think
Roose
Roose Bolton would fucking yield?
I don't know, but I think they would try and make them yield. I think they would offer it. And maybe that's me being
if you're the flayed guy or the flayed men, like
that's
you better,
true. You're kind of the savage
death,
guy.
right?
Yeah. That's true. Maybe Bolton's not the right one.
He's a cool and cunning
guy.
guy.
I get your point. I understand. Yeah, you need like that's part of it is like spoils of war and like taking hostages and stuff. So fair enough. But I think I guess more of what I'm saying is that night had him dead to rights. I think the plot armor was just Tyrion being able to figure out a way to get out of that, like having a spike on his helmet randomly.
Yeah. Well,
it's all planned. That's why they put a spike there.
Yeah, exactly.
Chekhov's gun.
Is that why the Germans had spikes on their helmets for a while?
Chekhov's spike.
Maybe Chekhov's spike. Exactly. Tyrion's spike.
Yeah, exactly.
So basically, Tyrion, at the end of that quote we had read, Tywin acknowledges Tyrion's injury, and Tyrion asks to see a maester. And right as that happens, somebody comes. Sir Adam Marbrand, who is the right flank, rides up to Tywin and basically tells him his horse is fucked up, and he jumps off and he tells him what happened. He's like, "We've taken a bunch of people captive, right? So they take Lord Serwyn, Lord Willis Manderley, who's one of the people the cat." Was with Cat, one of the fat guys, one of those fat sons of Lord Manderley, Harry and Karstark, and Lord Hornwood. Lord Hornwood is, I think, the one who offered his daughter to Robb when he had come to Winterfell or whatever.
No,
the Manderleys is the fat. The Manderley's the fat lord who's too fat to sit a horse. He sends two of his sons with Cat when she comes. One of them gets captured. One of the sons, Sir Willis. But Lord Hornwood, who's one of the lords of one of the lesser houses.
But didn't one of them have like an old daughter that he brought with him that she was like fat and was going to cook for him and he was going to find her in his sleeping bag or whatever?
I don't remember them mentioning that she was old or would cook for him. But yes, that we're thinking of the same person now. Yeah,
I thought she was like not gross. That's rude, but you know what I'm saying, like
gross.
Gross. Yeah. Not gross, but yeah, gross.
Not gross, but gross, yeah.
No, we're talking the same person. I don't know if they ever described her as that. You might have just thought that, but I think that I thought they said like this person like called him a boy, and this person said this, and this person offered him a daughter, basically in order to get command, I think, of the Vanguard, right? They were like arguing over who was going to.
No,
that was over command of the entire
commander,
army.
Lord Commander.
The entire army. Yeah, exactly. And so basically he tells him, here's who we captured. They tells him all those people. And Tywin asks about Robb, and that's when they break the news the Stark Boy wasn't here. He crossed the Twins. He's riding for River Run, and the last thing I think Tyrion thinks is like that Tywin had thought that Robb was to be more brave than wise, and he would have laughed if it didn't hurt so much. So like, which again is kind of telling about Tyrion. He's not on the Stark side. Like he should be on his dad's side, but he wants to laugh in the fact that like his dad got outsmarted, even though it's like a bad thing for Tyrion. Yeah, it's like as far
pretty bad.
Yeah, like he should not be happy about this, but it makes him want to laugh. Just because it just kind of shows the relation. Again, just shows the relationship between Tyrion and his dad.
But now they know he's headed to Jaime. That's the other side of that.
Yeah,
a little late though.
Yeah, and according to Nelson's map, they're super far north, which is not as far as I thought. So I was kind of concerned about that when I thought he was further south, that he could just backtrack. But now they're way out of the position to help.
That's all I have for my notes.
Cool.
Kyle, predictions?
I mean, I don't know that there was really much predicting to come out of this, other than like the Robb fight is coming up.
Next chapter's Catelyn.
Yeah, but is she with Robb? Yeah, she's with Robb. So yeah, I mean, there's gonna be a Robb fight.
Is that your prediction?
Yeah, I so like I said this.
Is
before.
Catelyn gonna armor up?
Do you want to speak on how Robb's fight goes?
I have to speculate, but like
you're allowed to speculate. This is the only part of the podcast where we ever speculate. Is the Kyle predictions part.
It's me. And I'm the only speculator.
Kyle's the only one that's allowed to ever speculate. Exactly.
I'm the only speculator. But come follow me to the gold. But what I have to say though is like, so, and it's unfortunate that it has to come down to this, but like the North can't lose every fight. Like they can't. There's no way that there's 7.
Did they lose this fight?
Kinda.
They didn't win, but they didn't lose as bad as Tywin.
They got pushed back.
They would lose.
They were forced to retreat.
Some people escaped, but we don't know how many. Again,
so
that's kind of what
this army
my
is
maps
dead.
try to indicate that too.
Yeah,
that we don't know how many escaped. It like kind of was. I tried to make it towards the edge of the map ambiguous who was dying and who was escaping, because like I don't know, you don't know, nobody knows. Like.
Yeah, so I mean, there's got to be some forces left from here, but like it's not the full squad anymore, you know.
For
like
sure.
Do you think when Tywin gets that news that there's other people riding for River Run that he still feels as good about his victory today?
No, I think he knows that like this isn't good. Obviously, that's what I'm saying, because like they can't lose them all, right? So
you think it's something good's gonna happen in this Robb battle?
I don't know if something good's going to happen, but I think like they might break Jaime's army or break the siege. How's that? Let's go.
If you're Robb and you get word back from this battle of what happened.
Again, I don't think Robb's getting word from this battle.
Say he did. Hypothetically, we can speculate here. Speculation time.
No, only I'm allowed to speculate.
Okay, yeah.
Kyle, do you think when Robb hears about how this battle went down and now where the Lannister army is at, does he consider a victory as well?
Robb?
Mm-hmm.
Does Robb consider what a victory? What is that question?
This battle that just happened.
So it fell into his plan.
Oh,
but
gotcha.
I don't think it's a victory.
Gotcha.
Like his.
If your plan goes ahead and works.
Yeah, but if they would have killed this army, it would have been a victory.
A double victory.
But that's not what this battle was for. This battle.
But it could have been better.
We don't know the casualty count. We don't know that.
Anything else, Kyle? Sorry.
Yeah, I don't have anything else, guys. Good night. I'll see you later.
All right, see you. Bye, Kyle.
All right, Kyle. Good predictions, bud. Breaking the siege.
Kyle.
So that was something else for the podcast that I didn't say, and I am still recording, so I'm going to say it right now. But finally something happened, guys.
Bye.
Finally.
See you in the next one.
Later, nerds.
Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert!
See you later, guys. Great hanging out, bud. We'll see you in the next episode for Catelyn 8. I don't know about the number, but correct me if I'm wrong. Now, on to the spoiler section of Tyrion 8. Boys, what are your hot takes for this one?
I don't have shit for hot takes.
The chapter.
I've got
Hot takes
one
for me. You know what? I'll start it off this time, guys. The only thing I
Catelyn
have
10.
is
It's Catelyn 10.
Catelyn 10. Boys, I'm starting off with the hot takes this week.
All right,
Uh-oh.
take
The
it.
only thing I have for this is I think one reason that the Mountain was in the Vanguard is because Tywin sees him as expendable. He is not liked throughout the whole continent. He is very undisciplined.
Totally disagree.
And well, yeah, but no one likes him. And if he dies, people are gonna be like, "Oh, whatever. Doesn't really matter."
Tywin definitely does. All of your individual points might be right, but Tywin definitely does not see him as expendable because, I mean, just think about like later in the books when Doran Martell is like, all right, give me the Mountain's head and basically we'll be cool. And Tywin's like, yeah, no, I'm going to lie and say Amory Lorch did everything.
Do you
That way I don't
think
have to kill
like the
the
Mountain's
What do you
just
mean?
that much?
If he thought the Mountain's expendable, as expendable as it seems based on this plan. So hold on. I have no idea. Is Tyrion right about the plan?
Yes.
Because of what you're saying, I don't think Tywin considers the Mountain expendable at all. And
I don't think he does either, but it's just so stupid to put him front and center, literally leading the charge when a stray arrow could go off somebody else's shield and catch him in the throat or something stupid like that.
so
That's plot armor is putting him in the front.
one of my big theories, and again, I haven't even. I'm going to take the back. One of the theories that I've seen that I kind of like. I haven't done enough research into it to know like if I support it or not. But I've seen a theory that when Joffrey dies, they're not trying to kill Joffrey. It's Littlefinger trying to kill Tyrion because he needs Tyrion dead in order to marry Sansa off later, which is what he cares about, right? The point of bringing that up is when Sansa talks to Littlefinger about that, that murder. Sansa is the one who reveals what she thinks happened, and Littlefinger just kind of says like, "Yeah," and confirms it. But it's kind of almost like, is it true? Is it really true if the person is guessing and you just say, "Yeah, you're right"? Like, couldn't that person be lying about saying, "Yeah, you're right"? And that's what happens here. Tyrion says, did that surprise you, father? Did it upset your plans? We were supposed to be butchered, weren't we? And Tywin says, yeah, you're right. Like, I put the discipline
Yeah, we were
going to
let. We thought Rob was going to attack the left. He goes into detail, which is different than what Littlefinger
You're right,
does.
you're right.
Littlefinger keeps it vague while Tywin goes into detail. Yeah, we thought Rob was going to see a kink in the armor and try to attack it, and then we're going to surround him.
You're 100% right, but it just seems kind of the only reason I question it is because of the mountain thing. He obviously doesn't see, because what you're saying
He
about
would
the
rather
mountain,
have the Mountain than Tyrion.
yeah, exactly. But yeah, for sure, he values the mountain more than Tyrion, and you can always say, yeah, mountain obviously undisciplined, which makes sense why he would put him with the undisciplined men. But what Glow said, I really disagree with, just because of how Tywin handles the Dorne situation later. He could basically clear up the entire Dorne situation with just killing Gregor. And he refuses. I mean, maybe that's not true because he knows Dorne wants him as well. But I don't know. I feel like Gregor really helps a lot of it. And he refuses to even give him that much. So it makes me think that he values Gregor and wouldn't just put him on a suicide mission. Maybe he just thinks that even though the left is a suicide mission, somehow Gregor wouldn't die to these people because he's a freak. I can maybe see that, which is kind of what I always assumed. But now that I'm thinking about it and you guys brought it up, like, it is kind of far-fetched that he wants everyone else to be butchered except for one person. But I think Tywin really values Gregor. Like, a lot, just based on the later stuff in the books.
He does all the dirty work for him.
There's
like kill women and children.
There's a particular scene, or particular scene in one of these books. It's a Tyrion chapter. I think it's got to be Storm of Swords because it's after the Battle of Blackwater. It's when Tywin and Tyrion are both in King's Landing, and Tywin says something about. Tyrion says I think it's after Tyrion welcomes Oberyn. Oberyn comes to the capital. Tyrion is the one that's like in the greeting party with Oberyn, right? And then I think it's when he's talking to his dad, and that's maybe the next Tyrion chapter, or maybe the same Tyrion chapter. And he's like, they want revenge for the sister. Like, just give them the mountain. And Tywin, like, it's not like a long speech, but he gives like a paragraph or like at least a couple sentence speech about like why Clegane is important and like it's useful to have somebody like Clegane around, and why he's willing to jump through these hoops to make it seem like it was Sir Adam Marbrand instead. And part of it is that, or not Sir Adam Marbrand,
Armory Lord.
Amory Lorch. Part of the reason that he wants to blame on Amory Lorch is Amory's already dead. And he suffered a gruesome death. And he partially did have something to do with it. So you can kind of... The argument to me, for what Glow... If I was Glow, and I'm trying to argue that Gregor is expendable, and I say to you, Gregor is not expendable, Tywin cares about him, because of what I just said, the only thing that I think you can come back to me with is the only reason Tywin says that is because at that point in the story, Amory Lorch had already been killed by Vargo Hoat, and his manner of death was a bear. So when Tyrion says, "Why not just give up the mountain?" Tywin's like, I think is like pretty much his answer is, "Why give up the mountain when we don't have to?" Which doesn't really mean like I don't. Which doesn't necessarily mean I care about the mountain a lot. It just means like I think what already happened to this guy who is known to have some involvement in what happened to some involvement in the thing that Dorne's pissed about, because he was already killed in a really gruesome way. I think I can twist it to appease them and get Gregor out just for the hell of it. Like maybe there's no like super investment in it. Maybe just like I think I can get away with it, so I'll try it. You know what I mean? Maybe not.
Yeah. No, I understand what you're saying, and it's just so weird he would put him in the Vanguard. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, and again, maybe the only other thing is at that point in A Storm of Swords, when Tywin is like trying to keep it seems like Tywin's trying to keep Gregor alive. Gregor has provided way more benefit to Tywin at that point than he has by now, right?
Yeah, and that's the other thing. Like, maybe he proved his worth more and more.
Yeah, in between now and then, a lot. Yeah, like what has Gregor done for Tywin at this point in the story?
He killed women and children for him.
He did like the thing that we heard about in the Ned chapter where he like went to the three, and
then he started burning the fucking
Sherrare, Wenderstown, and
Riverlands.
The 3 towns in Riverlands that they all came to talk to Ned about. He did that, so we heard he did one favor for Tywin. Well, by Storm of Swords, he's fucking like taken over Harrenhal twice and like cut off Jaime's. No, he hasn't cut off Jaime's hand.
I mean, he's definitely
but he's done way more.
Since we were talking about Godfather, he's the Luca Brasi of the Godfather of Don Corleone.
He's the enforcer. Does all the dirty work.
Glow's never seen Godfather. That was a conversation we had before we even started recording.
It's just crazy.
And that's like one of Jeff's favorite movies. And
I have no interest.
Jeff's kind of upset about it. So moving on.
3.5 hours long of fucking Don Corleone.
Is it 3.5
It's not,
hours?
dude. It's amazing. Of every speculation that you've had about The Godfather has been completely wrong.
There's no way
like not even
it's like
close.
a normal length movie, right?
What are you talking about?
It's a normal length movie.
You've brought up the horse head, the young
Which is
son.
not long. It's in it. And I said, "Oh, that's so cool."
but you're acting like that's like
Fredo's a little bitch that Corleone lets die.
Dude,
Fredo's not even like in the first
Fredo
movie.
is like in the movie for 5 minutes. The horse head is such a minuscule plot point, and Don Corleone does not go talking around the whole movie. Like Don Corleone,
No, he does. But it's cool. But it's cool. It is the best part of the movie.
When you think about the actual movie, he's like not even 50% of the movie. It's so much more about Michael.
Yeah, the main son, but whatever. It's Don and Michael.
Michael's
Dude,
not the main son.
You have no clue.
Sonny's the main son. Come on.
What?
Michael's not the main son. Michael's what, the third son? Or is he the second son?
Second. Fredo's the third.
You don't understand.
Yeah, but Sonny dies anyway.
Sonny, Fredo.
It's because they're not Italian, Glass.
Sonny, Fredo, Michael. Dude, you just
Italian.
don't get it, dude. It's so fucking good. It's such a good movie.
What even are you?
Godfather 1 and then Godfather 2.
Irish.
Godfather 1, Godfather 2 are
You're Irish
like,
and you don't like
bang,
Goodfellas?
bang.
Get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here.
Goodfellas. It's fucking about Italian mob.
No, it's about an Irish mob.
Dude, Ray
Come
Liotta is an
on.
Irish Italian. No, it's not. It's the Italian.
Irish.
No. He's Irish. He's half Irish.
He's
half
Irish.
Irish. He's half Irish.
Whatever, dude.
So is
You
Big
fucking
Dog.
stew nod.
So is Big Dog.
The Departed. Now that's a good movie.
That is
Irish
a good
mob.
movie. It's a very good movie.
That's a good movie.
All right, I have one thing.
Go ahead.
Kind of like Glow always brings up the fucking dogs or the whatever.
The eyes.
What's his name's wearing rubies? Big Dog.
Tywin.
Big
Tywin
Dog
is wearing
Tywin.
rubies. I did notice that, Jeffrey.
Tywin.
I'm just gonna
Do you
bring it
think
up
that's actually
every time.
Jamie?
The thing about Tywin is it's interesting. He seems to have like a large connection with rubies. Right? Like I bet you I should load all those. I don't know if I ever said this on the podcast. For one of my school projects, I wrote a program that does like a word association for the Game of Thrones books. I should run Tywin and rubies through there and see what happens because I wouldn't be surprised if they show up a lot because I know when Tywin gets the swords made out of the Valyrian steel, the sword master. Do you guys remember the scene in the books? It's different, kind of different than the show. Tyrion's there, Tywin and the sword and Gendry's master. What's that guy's name? Tobo Mott. It's Tywin and Tobo Mott. Tobo Mott presents the sword. Tyrion comes in to see Tywin. Again, it's when they're both in King's Land. It's got to be Storm of Swords. I'm starting to think Storm of Swords is my favorite book. I never thought it was, but now that I'm thinking it. Everything that I remember that's good that happens in that book. Tyrion goes in and he basically is like, why does this sword look weird? They like try to put like red dye into the sword to make the sword look like crimson, but it didn't take right. So they kind of describe it looking like almost like a candy cane, but instead of like red and white, it's red and like dark gray, like the steel color.
Valyrian,
Yeah, Valyrian steel, but it's like rippled like Damascus, but like dark red and gray. So it's gotta look like fucking just a crazy ass sword. Tyrion comes in and when Tobo Mott is presenting these to Tywin, just like the first thing he says is like, these look awesome, and the only thing Tywin wants changed is they take the garnets out of the hilt and replace them with rubies. Rubies shine better. And I read that the other day, and not the other day, like I read it like a month and a half ago or whatever. And I was thinking, like, what? It's got to be important, right? Like, we know too much about ruby. Like, kind of like Jeff saying, anytime I hear rubies, my
Rubies just become such a big part of.
They make your ears prick up, and you're
book
like,
4 or 5, right?
And now that you bring it up with Tywin again, just because I just happened to relate him to Tywin recently, and now you say it again, like I wonder if there's any relation there, if there's anything weird going on.
I think it's just because he's a rich shitbag that shits gold and wipes his ass with rubies.
It might be, yeah. I mean, because that sword isn't even for him, right? It's not like he wears that. He gives it to either Jaime, Joffrey.
I mean,
or Jaime,
do you think there's any chance, like, say he does end up having to be in the battle? Like, I wouldn't put it past Tywin to be like, hey,
he rode in the battle.
Shit.
He rode past Tyrion, like to kill people.
No, I get it, but could there be any chance that like he has this little stunt double deal? It's like, hey, put on all my shit, put on all my armor, put on my rubies. I'm gonna be chilling here in my tent. Like, do your shit in the battle, then come back and we'll switch shit or whatever.
Kevin, wear my shit, bro.
You're talking about like with a glamour?
With the glamour, yeah.
I
wouldn't put it past him just in case he dies. Like I get it. Like he's an old man. He's not young anymore.
Thing is, there's no point. We know that Tywin doesn't die in this battle, so there's no point to write that into the story. So it didn't happen, and if it did, we'll never know about it because Tywin's dead. So like, it's interesting to think about. It definitely.
I just think about it as like, what if? I mean, we'll never know, right? I guess we'll never know at this point, unless somebody else comes back and like, oh no, I was Tywin's glamour rider.
The only thing
I wore his shit.
The reason it's interesting,
he would just be a fraud. He would be a fraud. Everything about him would be a fraud.
That's true, but the other reason I think it's interesting is because not only do we hear about people doing a fake appearance deal with rubies, right? But what's the whole Dorne plot in the 4th book, right? What's the Dorne plot with Ariana or
try to get
Marcella to be queen, get her out
to be queen, yeah.
So when they actually go to take action on that, what happens?
Darkstar fucks. I forget what happens.
So Marcella has a handmaiden, Rosalind. I think her name's Rosalind, who looks identical to Marcella, or very close to Marcella, on purpose. They've chosen like a Lannister cousin that looks very similar to Marcella that they've used to swap places before. They swapped places like on the boat. Like they took two different boats, and Rosalind was on one boat and Marcella was on the other. And like they told one boat that this girl's Rosalind and the other boat that this girl's Marcella, but they told the lie so that if they wanted to ferry off Marcella or kidnap her, they're taking the wrong girl. You know what I mean? It's like the fucking like Padme and
Yeah.
Padme and the number 2.
Padme number 2, exactly. Yeah, fucking Keira Knightley.
The handmaid, I think. I don't even know if she has a name.
Keira Knightley and not Keira Knightley.
No, it is
Natalie Portman.
Natalie Portman and Keira Knightley. Yeah.
Yeah. It is. I was gonna say it is Keira Knightley, but
dude, ever since fucking Phantom Menace, I literally like cannot get those two straight at all. Somehow that movie inceptioned me, but. Basically they did that. They did exactly that. And it just kind of makes me think that, wow, so we have evidence of Marcella doing this. We have evidence of Ruby's being weird. And now we have Tywin, a Lannister. Right, like Marcella is just a super, like genetic wise, Marcella is just a super Tywin. She's like super inbred Tywin genes. We have her doing like the disguise thing. I didn't even think about the rubies until Jeff brought it up, but it's interesting to think about.
Dude,
That's
holy shit. Keira Knightley does look like Natalie Portman, though.
I can never get when I see a movie with one of them in it, I never have any idea which one.
No, I mean it's pretty easy.
It is easy, but like they do look alike.
I have no idea.
Yeah, for sure.
I'd never have any idea.
Nels, do you have anything? Chloe, do you have more?
Else? No, I have nothing.
I had 2 things. They capture everybody: Lord Serwyn, Willis Manderley, Harry and Karstark, and 4 Freys, and then Lord Hornwood.
They all died?
That's who they capture. So real quick on Kyle's take that capturing people is
that was
plot
bad.
armor.
Asinine.
I mean, it's gonna be come to light when he sees that they captured Jaime.
Next chapter, exactly. Yeah. So that's exactly what I just kept wanting to say, but I knew I just had to wait a chapter. So,
but we've talked about it though. We've talked about it with the Stark girls. We've talked about it with Ned being a chip.
We have, but like Kyle, like really.
We've said it to Kyle too. Like, hey, like you can't just kill. Like
we've talked about the Stark girls being pawns way more than Kyle has. He thinks that they should just like I think Kyle's basically said like they should like Lannisters should just kill everybody in King's Landing. Like he's like, why keep him alive? So just kill him. Which is like just shows you how ruthless Kyle is. Like, thank God Kyle's not our king. You know what I mean?
He's just a psycho.
But so I just want to for the record, the 4 Freys who are captured, and they don't mention it in this.
Walter the Fourth.
It's from the wiki. This is Jared, Hosteen, Danwell, and Ronald. Some of those are important. I think Jared
doesn't ring any bells for me.
Hosteen Frey, I think, is the one who is leading the battle on Stannis in the Winds of Winter. Like, at the end of the Dance of Dragons. He's the one that gets kicked out of Winterfell fighting with Wyman Manderley about who killed who. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's Hosteen Frey. So he goes from somehow being captured in this battle to that in Book 5. Besides that, not really important. Just wanted to get their names down in my notes for future reference. The one thing that is important, though, is Harren Karstark is one of the people they captured.
Well, one of them dies, right?
Harren Karstark is captured in this battle.
Yeah, but
2 of the other Karstark sons die
in the Whispering Woods
at the hand
of Jaime.
Because Catelyn demands that Robb Stark have like really good knights defend her. So all of like the Lord's sons want to honor themselves. So Jaime, when he sees this battle is fucking lost, he's like, the only way, I'm outnumbered, like by far. They caught us unawares. We're fucked. Jaime realizes the only way we win is if I kill Robb. So he abandons everything, calls all his like men to him, and charges straight for Robb. And he personally cuts down the 2 Karstark sons. And here's the 3rd. I didn't realize that until this read through. The 3rd Karstark son is in Lannister hands when, again, it's not like Torrhen Karstark, who I think is the father. Is it Torrhen? Torrhen might be one of the sons. The father Karstark might be Rickard.
I thought it was like Harold Karstark.
Rickard. Harren is one that I just said.
Yeah, I thought it was Rickard.
I think it's Rickard. Yeah, it's Rickard. Rickard Karstark probably doesn't know that his third son is captured. Right? But
Yeah, no, there's no way.
Probably thinks he's dead or something.
Just like he does by the time he kills.
Why
he
is
definitely
this?
does.
Why is his son? Is this the oldest son that he was like leading his own deal?
And for anybody anybody listening to this voice actually who doesn't remember, this is important because
Karstark ends up trying to kill Jaime.
He kills two Lannister captors.
two Lannister captives.
The little cousins? Does he kill the little cousins?
Yeah, the cousins. Yeah.
Because he wasn't able to kill Jaime, right?
Yeah, and that's not a huge deal in and of itself.
But then Robb has to kill Karstark.
Robb has to kill Karstark out of honor, which loses a lot of his arm. Which loses a lot of his army. Yeah, exactly. So this is again, it's just like, did George know? That's book 3 shit, right? Everything that Jeff just said is book 3 shit.
Yeah, no, he's got this shit. He's got
in
this shit.
In this chapter, Harren Karstark gets captured by the Lannisters. In the next chapter, Jaime Lannister personally kills the other two Karstark
Karstark's
sons.
the guy that had his fingers eaten off, right?
That's Umber.
No, that was Umber.
Okay. Well, Karstark's been... So I feel like he always had this in his mind for a couple of the Northmen, right? He needed Roose Bolton to be the guy who turns on him. Like, that was going to be... like day one shit.
You're talking about like what George knew from the get-go at this point.
What George knew from the get-go. Roose Bolton was going to be the guy who ended up fucking up the North. And he needed a catalyst for the disloyalty of the Starks. And this was the way to just kind of introduce that.
It's just weird because like, you know, like when you're in high school and you have to read like the Scarlet Letter or some bullshit book that you don't give 2 fucks about for school. Mm-hmm. And you go in and you're sitting there and you're like, maybe you read it or you didn't read it or you read Spark Notes or whatever, and your teacher's just sitting there saying like, you see how early on in the book like this blah 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 is foreshadowing for this blah 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 blah, and you're always just like, that's total bullshit. Like, you made that up. There's no way the person who wrote this book was thinking that much about it. You know what I mean? And you're just like, you always feel like the English teacher is like projecting,
like,
almost.
Yeah, I understand that.
I feel like we're doing that all the time. Like in the first, and maybe George is just a genius, and I'm not giving him enough credit, and maybe I've spent too much time looking at this thing, and my brain just making connections that he never intended. But remember in the one Catelyn chapter where she gets to Moat Cailin and Robb's there, and I mentioned how everyone comes and gives a knee to her except for Roose Bolton and Karstark.
Mm-hmm.
And now, 2 people that betray.
And now
that's what I'm saying. Like he had them book eared.
Is that my brain? Is that just like George? Just like there's 12 people in the room, and George didn't want to write 12 names in a row, so he wrote 9 instead. And then it just happened to be like, is that just me just being crazy, or is George a super genius? Like, because you have to be. You have to be, right? I don't know how else you plan all this.
He's definitely different.
I agree. I think he's pretty smart. Maybe he backtrack and say, all right, maybe who could I have betray? I think
has to be.
Jeff's right.
It has to be a little. It has to be 100%. At least a lot of that.
But maybe like Karstark, he's like, oh, maybe I didn't have him kneel or something.
Nah, there's no way. I don't. I think he had.
It has to be some of what Glowsane though. Maybe not in this case, but some of it has to be with Glowsane, because like you can't plan it all out. Like it has to at some point.
Dude,
be, like,
them not kneeling is too much of a coincidence. That them two, it's too much. Like. When he thought about developing the story, it's not like he's just adding characters as he goes along. Like there's the people that are mentioned in book 4, he's already got that character and all of his backstory planned. It's already there.
Well, then the thing is, if him making them not kneel was planned, he has to know that there's so much going on in the story that no one's going to pick up on that unless they're on like their 10th read through like me. You know what I mean? So like at that point, he's just bragging. At that point, he's literally just like, haha, look, I put this shit so far early in the book and no one picked up on it because there's so much other shit going on. You know what I mean?
No, I understand.
But he's
bragging.
Like he knew once he thought up Roose Bolton in his head, he knew that was the guy that was going to turn on him. You know what I mean? Like It's not like
he's got.
It's already there. It's already there.
When you listen to interviews of how he wrote some of these early chapters, he makes it sound like he didn't know anything. And again, at this point, we're chapter 62. So yeah, he's probably got a lot more fleshed out than he did in chapter 5. Okay, I got that, but I don't know. There's still just like knowing where this story goes in just the seeds that are already being planted here is just kind of crazy. But I feel like we're going too long for a spoiler section that I didn't have that much for.
We're talking about good shit. I mean, maybe not right now, but I think it's cool to talk about for sure. I'd like to know what other people think. Like, if you really think that he can't be that talented enough to just be like, oh, let me go back to book 1 and see everything I ever mentioned about this guy to now figure out where this person's future is going. Like, the arcs are made. Like, he's got the arcs for the most part. I'm gonna say 98% of the way done.
Because like people. Like, the thing is, like, I'm just like the rest of them. Like, I'll propose theories. Like, just not kneeling thing is a great example. That happened in chapter maybe 55 of book 1. Did George really know about what's going to happen towards the end of Storm of Swords? I guess that's not towards the end of Storm of Swords. That might even be end of Clash of Kings. But did he really have that much foresight ahead at that point? And when you look on Reddit of Game of Thrones theories, there's so many theories that are yeah, well, look in chapter 3 at this evidence that supports it. And I'm just yeah, well, any evidence that you have in chapter 3 to me is completely coincidental, right? There's no way George knew in chapter 3 where this thing was going, but maybe he did. Maybe he did, and I'm just being kind of skeptical.
I mean, I think there's definitely times where they'll make mistakes, like he said about Tyrion doing backflips and shit like that, and maybe somebody's eye color, like that shit could happen for sure.
Here's the thing, though: when you read a book, I'm trying to think of it from an author's perspective.
But he's not writing a book; he's writing novels.
Yeah, but George wasn't really well off at the time of him writing the first book, right? He wasn't super rich until after the first Game of Thrones book. He was okay, but not super rich, well off. So when you write that, you can't assume that it's going to be well respected and you're going to keep writing in the series, right? Maybe I'm wrong.
No, absolutely not.
So yeah, maybe you plant a few seeds in book 1.
I disagree with you.
But you can't it just seems in order to plant, it seems like book 1 needs to be where you put in the most work.
No.
In order to make all these.
Sure. I mean, we just think about how many names that he introduces in the first book and how the plots kind of start. It's the start of everybody's plot.
Which is why I think it's more of a glow saying. Where maybe it's not he's writing a chapter and he's oh, you know what? I need a bad guy right now.
It doesn't make sense. You just think about everybody's first book experience right now. You just go through them all. Dany, Arya, Sansa. It's all laying the groundwork for book 3, 4, 5.
I guess, but later when he's so let's take another example. When Arya meets the Brotherhood Without Banner, she sees Harwin, right? Who's the Master of Horse's son. I don't think in that they have a pretty big connection in the Brotherhood Without Banner. There's 2 or 3 chapters where they talk a lot, and she learns some stuff about a lot of, I think I don't know. They have a relationship in book 3. He catches her when she tries to run away. Some stuff happens. George didn't plan that in book 1 when he sent Harwin out with Beric Dondarrion, right? But later he's oh, you know what? It would probably be cool if Arya got captured by them. Oh, and there's definitely Starks with them because I sent them out. And yeah, I said that a lot of their men got killed when they crossed the Trident or whatever that was, whatever river that is near River Run where they crossed. I think it's actually the Green Fork. I think it's just a different branch. We remember, again, I feel like I'm rambling. We hear a couple chapters ago that Beric Dondarrion's men were attacked by the Lannisters when the Lannisters crossed either the Red Fork or the Green Fork, but that Beric was hounding their rear, right? So when George is oh, I want Arya to end up with a brother without banners, he'll just go back and be okay, I killed off some of them, but I never said who I killed off, and here's who I sent out. Oh, Harwin was one of them. Arya would know him. I'll just make it so he's alive now. That has to be how some of this happens, right? When he wrote book 1, he didn't plan on Harwin meeting Arya later when he sent him out of King's Landing. It can't all be at that level.
No, right. I mean, that's he's not. He didn't write book one knowing every little detail. I mean, if he
there's
did,
gonna be details
he's
that he flushed
absolutely
out.
ridiculous. So I agree with you to that point.
I feel like I need to say something real. I'll let you finish, Jeff. But like anybody who's listened to this obviously has listened to George R. R. Martin interviews before, and he always said, people are going to be like, he always says. I know he always says he's a gardener, not an architect. In case you guys haven't heard this, he says authors are two things: they're architects or gardeners, and architects have blueprints that are nailed. They know exactly how long every board's going to be, exactly how many nails they're going to need before they write everything. Basically, that's writing an outline, multiple outlines, multiple drafts, that kind of thing. George is more of a gardener where you plant seeds and you plant a seed and you know I want this to be an oak and I know I want this to be tomatoes and I know I want this to be an apple tree. But you have no idea what that tree is going to look like when it's done. That's how George says that he is as a writer. Which makes me think that Glow is more... I'm leaning more towards Glow.
Woo!
But it's still crazy that the garden he has is all vines, it's all ivy, and it's all intertwined. And it's crazy how he's managed to keep it all straight with as little inconsistencies as he's had. Sorry, I'm getting drunk.
Yeah, George is a genius.
Dude, yeah, he's definitely a genius. To think this in depth about anything... Like, just try and think about a story that you want to tell. A completely fictional story. You can have as many as little characters you want and figure out how they're going to end up where they are. Just to keep it all together takes a different type of mind.
Like, literally, like, think about if you were going to try and do this. Like, what if a teacher literally gave you an assignment that said, like, write a book series comparable to A Song of Ice and Fire. Obviously, that's not a school, like a semester thing that you could do. But just like think about like how complex this actual world is and how long that would fucking take you. And also, I think part of the reason these books are taking longer and longer to write is because he's not an architect. He is a gardener. Right? So at a certain point, he might have written himself into a corner where it's just like, I wrote all this stuff. And before, when I needed an enemy to fill these shoes, it just so happened that I had already had a Stark that had never kneeled to Catelyn and had happened to have sons die. So I was able to grab the Karstarks. But now I need XYZ and there just isn't that. Like, that might be a thing. You know? Like, that's definitely why it's taking so long to write these.
Yeah, that definitely could be it.
But I don't have anything else.
All right. If that's all, everyone, if you're listening, please like and subscribe. Put some comments if you have any questions, comments, or concerns. We'll definitely bring them up on the next episode. But thank you and have a wonderful evening. The night is dark and full of terrors.
Bye-bye.